NFC Championship Game. What a playoff game it was for the Rams. What can we expect for the Super Bowl? They're hosting it this year, guys. Find out in the next edition of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Episode number 100. Take a second, guys. 100. Gotta say, thank you so much to each and every one of you guys that have been ride or die supporters of Sideline Sports Podcast. This just started as one guy with one dream. I'm not going to get started with that as far as like a movie or whatever, but thank you so much to each and every one of you guys. Here's to 100 more episodes of Sideline Sports Podcast. You guys can follow us on all of our social media handles down in the description below, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I know our guys do an excellent job putting up content, SoCal sports, but I am Alex Naveja from Sideline Sports Podcast via Sideline Sports Media, where if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, the source of your SoCal sports news. And if you guys are really a Rams fan, you need to be familiar with the guy right here next to me, Cameron Dasilva himself, managing editor of the Rams Wire. He is our guest for episode number 100. Cameron, what's going on, man? Episode number 100. It's on your shoulders, man.
What's up, Alex? I got I got big shoes to fill. Thanks for having me on for the 100th episode. That's pretty sweet.
Absolutely, man. I know we had to go big or go home, and you were the right candidate, the right guy for episode number 100. But before we talk about Rams action, while you guys are down there, hit the subscribe button down below and hit the thumbs up as well and the notification bell so you guys can stay up to date with everything going on with Sideline Sports Podcast. And also give Cameron a follow. I'm going to put his social media handles down in the description below. He's got everything that you guys need to know for the Rams. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about Vamos Rams. Let's talk about Rams House, how it was this Sunday, being at home, playing against the 49ers, and that place was rocking. A red ocean of Niners fans and having Rams fans there in attendance and just repeating, "Whose house?" Loved it. Thoughts, Cameron?
Yeah, that was a special game. I had a feeling they were going to win that game going into it. I thought they were the better team than the 49ers, and even after they fell behind in the first half, I had a feeling they were going to come back and find a way to move the ball against that 49ers defense, which is admittedly pretty good. They have a strong defensive front. The secondary played better than I expected, but really there were just too many first half mistakes for the Rams, and I knew as soon as they would get things cleaned up a little bit, shore up the defense, play a little bit better in coverage and against the run, I knew they would have a good chance to come back and win that game, and that's exactly what they did.
It looked like the Niners had a bit of a slow start to the game, but once that second quarter came about, they really picked it up as far as defensively was concerned. Having that pick and the end zone to stop Stafford there, that was maybe one of the very few mistakes that Stafford made during that game. But the Niners put up a heck of a fight. They definitely put up a heck of a fight.
Yeah, for sure. I think Stafford played a pretty good game other than that interception like you mentioned, and then he had the other play where he almost got picked off by Jaquiski Tart in the middle of the field on that deep shot. But other than that, I mean, he made some really good throws, consistently finding receivers. That throw that he made to Kupp on 3rd and 3, the 25-yarder that set up the game-winning field goal, that was a really accurate, sharp throw over the middle, and that really could have been the difference of the game, because if they don't pick that up, it's probably a 50-yarder that Matt Gay's trying to take the lead instead of a 30-yarder that wound up winning it. So I thought he played a good game. He was kind of a question mark going into the playoffs. Was he going to throw 2 interceptions? Was he going to throw pick sixes to the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Bucks? But he really has impressed me this postseason.
It's an absolute night and day difference from this Matthew Stafford in the regular season, throwing the pick sixes, throwing the ball just down the field, and just end up getting picked easily, poorly contested shots for Stafford. But now he goes against the Cardinals and just like that changes the whole dynamic of the offense. You see him get comfortable in the pocket. You see him get through Kyler Murray. You see him get through Tom Brady, and now Jimmy G and the 49ers. And that's like an in-your-face win for the Rams. It's like, okay, Niners, you can beat the Rams in the regular season games. But when it comes down to the big show, whose house, baby? Whose house?
Yeah, exactly. Lost 6 in a row to the 49ers, but they won it when it mattered. So, I mean, they get the last laugh here. They win it at home, move on to the Super Bowl. It was a nice way to run through the postseason, beating the Cardinals, who are division rivals, the Bucks, led by Tom Brady, who are the defending Super Bowl champions, and then you snap that 6-game losing streak to the 49ers. So, kind of a nice story going through this postseason, and then you have the Bengals coming up.
Right. How about the underrated story? Something that not a lot of people are talking about. How about Tyler Higbee going down? But then you turn to Blanton, and he is your big tight end to, 1, give some protection for Stafford, and 2, come up with some key receptions to keep drives alive.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, Higbee's an underrated player for them. He hasn't really had that 80-yard, 100-yard game this season, but, I mean, he's good for 4 or 5 catches, 50, 60 yards each week almost. So, he doesn't get enough credit for the job that he does, especially as a blocker too. That's not something that really you notice in the box score or you notice throughout a game, but he's played really well, and hopefully he's healthy enough to play in the Super Bowl, because he's a big boost to that offense. And nothing against Kendall Blanton, but Higbee is a difference maker. And if he doesn't go, fortunately they do have Blanton, who had some experience playing in this game against the 49ers. He had, I think, 5 catches, about 50 yards. So a career game for him, but you want Higbee out there.
You definitely want Higbee out there. The MCL injury, I know headlines have been going out saying that he is still, that's a game time, not a game time decision, but he is a little hesitant on, getting that start for that game, but Blanton could still sure do it. But how about the big fella himself? He wears this number, but add another 9 to it. Big AD, baby. How about him finishing up with a big-time quarterback pressure and enforcing that pick by Jimmy G and Big AD finally getting verbal. This is a guy that he sold to himself and doesn't really say anything to the defense. But when it came down to the big moments, he huddled around his defense and told them, we need to step it up. If we want a chance at the hardware in the ring and at our own home, they need to step it up. And they did. I loved how the game ended.
Yeah, I mean, he's become such a vocal leader for them, and you can really see the passion that he has. I don't know if you watched that sideline speech that he gave to the defense when they were down. I mean, that's a guy who's motivated to win a ring, and he really wants to finally get that championship to add to his Defensive Player of the Year, his All-Pros, his Pro Bowls. I mean, this guy's done everything you can do as a defensive tackle in the NFL except win a Super Bowl. So he's desperate to win that ring, and I think he's got a good shot this year. And no bigger play in that game for him than that pressure on Jimmy G's pick. Kind of a quiet game for the first half. He didn't really get his name called much, but in that fourth quarter, he came alive.
I think that's when once he rallied up the troops for the battle, he was trying to get them in there. Hey, just push through it. Get the pressure on him. Jimmy G has been sitting just cozily inside of the pocket. Didn't have a lot of pressure under him, but loved the hustle from the defense, loved what the Rams had. And I'll tell you, Rams Nation, Ramily, however you guys want to be called, I know all of us were super nervous for that game. I was definitely hugging onto the screen and just pretty nervous about that second half. But we're going to go ahead and step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk about Super Bowl and what to expect against the Cincinnati Bengals, folks. Who would have guessed? The Bengals. But can't sleep on Joey Burrow himself, national championship winner with LSU. Find out next edition of Sideline Sports Podcast.
This is Kyra Boncho Smith, hip-hop artist and men's basketball player, and you're watching Sideline Sports Podcast.
Second half action of episode number 100 of Sideline Sports Podcast. Coming right at you guys. The host, Alex Naveja, with you all. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, a source of your SoCal sports news. Would you go with anybody else for SoCal sports news? I mean, Sideline Sports Podcast is where it's at, guys. Just follow us on all of our social media platforms, and we'll keep you guys up to date with everything we've got. We've got some big surprises still coming up. I know Jose has something under his belt. Mark, Center Locked, he's always got some great guests on his podcast on Center Locked. So keep up on it, guys. Follow, hit the subscribe button down below. We're getting close to number 400 subscribers, and hit the bell down below. And once again, on my left-hand screen, if you don't know him, guys, you're not a real Rams fan. You're not really part of the Rams family or the Ramily or Rams house if you're not following Cameron Dasilva, managing editor of Rams Wire. If you don't know him, you're not, guys. He was on top of it, all the action of the first half of Sideline Sports Podcast, talking all about the Rams and that game against the 49ers. Now, how about the Rams hosting a Super Bowl? And I know you could confirm this, Cameron. This is the first time in NFL history for back-to-back Super Bowl teams to host. It was the Bucs last year that hosted it. Now it's the Rams making history to host a Super Bowl. So how about that? That's a nice little luxury. You get to clean up the house.
Yeah, it's crazy. Go 54 Super Bowls without a team hosting it, and then you go 2 years in a row with the Bucs and the Rams. I don't know. I don't remember where the Super Bowl is next year, but that team's got to be on watch wherever the game is being played, because they might just continue the streak.
Yeah, you're really hoping that it could be like a contending team of some sorts. If it's a really bad team like the Jets or something, oh wow, that's a lot of pressure if you're the Jets or even like the Giants or anything. So, but what about the Bengals? Last year, a 4-loss team. Joe Burrow comes in, handles the business, and in KC, I only got to see the ending of the game. So I got to see a couple seconds of regulation. I saw Mahomes trying to be Mahomes, but got no protection and was scrambling, and they lost at least 17 yards, and they just ended up going into OT and not able to score. You know, you think Patrick Mahomes, first possession, it was going to be like the Bills game all over again. Go to OT, and you think Mahomes gets first touch, game over, they go to the Super Bowl, which you would expect.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and really, he almost played hero ball a little bit too much there at the end of the game. I thought the Chiefs tried to play it a little bit too cute and milk the clock out, and on second and third down, Mahomes, those scrambles, he was just trying to do too much. He had a couple guys open. I think he had Kelsey in the end zone on that first play. Didn't see him, and it really came back to bite them. And they're honestly lucky that Bucker made that 44-yarder to tie the game, to even push it into overtime, because they went from being about a 20-yarder to a 44-yarder in a matter of 2 plays. And they got into overtime, couldn't do it. He threw a pick. It was a good play from the Bengals defense, and I don't think the defense got enough credit for the way that they played, holding them to only 24 points going into overtime. And Joe Burrow turned around, moved the ball, got them into field goal range pretty easily, and they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl.
How about that? Bengals, Rams at the Super Bowl. Do you like that matchup? Do you like that Super Bowl? Or would you have preferred maybe a Rams and a Chiefs?
I think Rams Chiefs is probably the pick that a lot of people wanted, just knowing how explosive and how talented the Chiefs are, and how historic that game was 3 years ago that they played in LA, that 54-51 game. People want a repeat of that, and they want to see the Rams and Chiefs go at it again. But I like this matchup, especially if you're a Rams fan. It's a more favorable matchup going up against the Bengals rather than the Chiefs. I think they got a good chance to win this game. And as bad as the Bengals offensive line is, Joe Burrow is an elusive quarterback who can avoid pressure and really keep them alive in this one.
I think plain and simple, if the O-line can protect Joe Burrow is just he's gonna be a boss. He's gonna handle the business. As long as they can protect him, he's got all day to throw. I think it's gonna be a tough Super Bowl for the Rams.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it's gonna come down to. You gotta get good performance out of Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, Greg Gaines, Sebastian Joseph Day possibly coming back. So if you can get pressure on Joe Burrow and really rattle him a little bit and throw off the timing of that offense, then I think the Rams are going to be successful. They'll have a good chance to win. But like you said, if he gets time, he's going to pick apart the defense, and those wide receivers are a really difficult matchup for the Rams secondary with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, even CJ Uzomah if he's able to play Uzomah. It's a tough matchup for that secondary.
It's definitely a nice little interesting matchup. I like the Bengals and the Rams. I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, Rams all day, but I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I don't think this is going to be something that's going to be very easy. I think it's going to be more interesting than last year's Super Bowl. It was just one-sided. It was Bucks all the way. It was Mahomes just doing everything that he could to keep these plays alive, but the ball was being dropped left and right, and to the point where Mahomes was on his way down and he was side-arming the football, just trying to keep the plays alive. We need a more action-packed Super Bowl here, folks. I mean, it's in LA, baby. Like, we need something neck and neck, like the Chiefs and the Niners Super Bowl. We need something like that.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get something like that this year with the Rams and the Bengals. It's going to come down to Joe Burrow really carrying that offense and doing everything he can. Hopefully he's not running for his life like Mahomes was last year, but it's going to be a tough game for the Bengals. But, I mean, they've shown time and time again they're able to keep games close and win games late like they have the last 2 weeks.
All right, so I'm going to put you in a bit in the hot spot for maybe the last two questions now. What are the keys to victory for the Rams? What do you want to see them do?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to pressuring Burrow. You got to get pressure on him because that's an offensive line for the Bengals that is not necessarily the most talented group. They work hard and they put in a lot of effort to protect Burrow, but when you're going to get up against two Hall of Famers in Aaron Donald, Von Miller, it's going to be a tough game for them. Secondly, on defense for the Rams, it's going to come down to covering T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Chase. You're going to need a good game from Darius Williams and David Long. Those are the number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks. You know Jalen Ramsey is going to have a good performance, whether he's playing in the slot, whether he's outside on Jamar Chase. You know he's going to have a good performance against them, but we saw Darius Williams get picked on a little bit by Tom Brady. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. So he needs to step up. He needs to do a good job against probably T. Higgins on the outside. Tyler Boyd plays in the slot a lot. So it's a tough matchup for them. I think covering their receivers and pressuring Joe Burrow, those are two of the biggest keys to this game for the Rams.
And how about Matthew Stafford? Just have a consistently good game as far as the passing game is concerned, and having to trust in your backs and Akers and Sony Michel?
Yeah, for sure. He can't play outside of his ability and try to do too much. He's not on the Lions anymore. He's not on a team where he has to carry them. He has players around him. He has Cooper Kupp. Odell Beckham is playing so well right now. And then, like you mentioned, you have Akers and Michel in the backfield who can take pressure off of him, hand the ball off, let them work a little bit. So really it's about avoiding mistakes. Don't throw those costly interceptions. Don't throw pick sixes in your own territory. So that's really, you just can't make those critical errors like he did against the 49ers with that end zone pick almost late in the fourth quarter with that second interception. Just avoid those mistakes, play within yourself, and I think the Rams have a good chance.
So, interesting enough, both of these quarterbacks have never been to a Super Bowl before. So now it's just who do you think has more of the pressure? Do you think it's Joe Burrow or do you think it's more Stafford?
Pressure-wise, I would say Stafford, just to kind of validate the trade, being traded for 2 first-round picks, Jared Goff going to Detroit, Stafford coming to LA. The Rams went all in to win this Super Bowl. So you gotta, at this point, you really want to win this game and validate those trades that they made for Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, signing Odell Beckham. So there is a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford. Burrow has a long career ahead of him. This really was just a surprise for him to lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So he's going to have other opportunities down the road. But for Stafford, you don't know how many chances you're going to get the rest of the way in your career. I think more pressure is on him to win this game.
I'm going to second you on that. Stafford does have a lot of pressure. For the reasons that you just said, I'm going to make it short and sweet for you guys. If the Rams don't win the Super Bowl, this year was a bust. It was an absolute bust. You traded away a lot of guys. You paid a lot of money to OBJ. You traded away guys to bring in Ramsey, to bring in Miller, to bring in Stafford. If the Rams don't win it, it's a bust. And then there's no future for the Rams because there are no draft picks there. And they're going to be stuck in a situation where they can't get guys from the draft or anything. They're going to have to get guys from the low draft picks that they have in the low rounds. But very quickly, Cameron, quick prediction, final score, who wins?
I'll say Rams 27, Bengals 24. I think it's going to be a close game. Spread's like 4.5 right now. I think the Bengals probably cover just because they're such a tough team and they find ways to stay in games. It's going to be, I think it'll be a close game, but the Rams will pull it out at home.
That's a real good score. I have to agree with something like that. Mine would be 24-21 Rams, and it comes down to a game-winning field goal by Gay. But, hey, guys, we've got 2 weeks until Super Bowl comes up. Pro Bowl this weekend. You guys want to watch that one? But the Super Bowl, big day, 2 more weeks at SoFi. If you've got the money for it, I say go buy it, guys. But if you don't, you'll be like me and watching it from home and wishing and dreaming that you were there at SoFi Stadium. But that's all the time we have left here on Sideline Sports Podcast. We thank you all so much for joining this one. If you guys like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. You guys know what to do with that subscribe button. Press it. The notification bell. Press it. It's there for a reason, guys. It's not to make YouTube look good. It's for you guys to press it. So that way we can make it to subscriber number 400. And follow us on all of our social media handles down below. Follow me on social media. I promise I keep it interesting on Twitter, folks. I'm not a boring Twitter guy or an Instagram. I try to keep it as interesting as possible for you guys. But managing editor of the Rams Wire, Cameron Dasilva himself. Now that you Rams fans watch this one, you guys are real day ones now. You guys know Cameron Dasilva, and you guys can follow him on the social media handles. Cameron, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Always appreciate it. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on, Alex.
And, of course, I'm Alex Naveja, the host of Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, guys. The source of your SoCal sports news. We'll see you guys next week. Still got some surprises. This was episode number 100 of Sideline Sports Podcast. Have a good one, everybody.